Welcome, Mr. Tom Perlo, the U.S. Special Envoy role in the peace process.
Thank you very much for having me, Suzanne.
Do you think there is still a chance to convince the military to join to the talk?
Well, we are hopeful that the Army will send a delegation here, but we are already negotiating with them every day. Our priority is to get humanitarian access to more than 20 million Sudanese who've been cut off from food and medicine. And so we have worked to prioritize the opening of Adre border, the Daba Road in Sennar. We seem to have very good news coming for Adre with trucks ready to move. And that's been working phones with the Army every day, as well as with the RSF and with OCHA. So we are moving forward with these negotiations very actively all through the night. But we could accomplish a lot more if they send a team here.
Okay. Mr. Tom, do you have any idea about a partition of Sudanese people?
About the partition?
Yeah.
Well, the United States is very opposed to partition. We support the unified sovereignty of the state of Sudan. We think that's very important. We are very worried about the possibility of fractures. We've already seen an undermining of the infrastructure of the country. This is why we think it's so important to get a national cessation of violence. And we want to see these hostilities stop. We want to rebuild the kind of institutions that are so crucial in protecting people in the country. So we certainly are opposed to partition. We believe the best path here is peace and getting back on the path to the civilian transition that the people began back in 2019. And in the meantime, we want to make sure we can get food and medicine to people who are starving.
Mr. Tom, before in the Zoom, we're talking about the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Right now, did you already have the chance to talk to Sudanese women and listen to their story? And what affected you the most?
Well, in the last 6 months, I've had a chance to meet with hundreds, even thousands of Sudanese women from all 18 states, meeting with them virtually in refugee camps, in the diaspora, and here in Geneva. And unfortunately, it's a horrific set of stories of rape, of sexual slavery, of famine, of pregnant mothers who don't have the basic nutrition, knowing they're carrying that, and seeing people who don't even know if their own children are alive because they were separated at points, and we don't have the telecommunications functioning that we need. But I've also seen that unbelievable courage.
That's when you listen to the story.
And people who found creative ways to create local kitchens and negotiate days off in markets where people can safely access that. And it's just that courage that keeps us going, and why we are here to push both the Army and the Rapid Support Forces to live up to their JEDA obligations, including on issues like violence against women, rape and sexual slavery, the use of food as a weapon of war. These are not just against the JEDA declarations, they're against the basics of international humanitarian law. And we are going to do our part to try to hold them accountable and help operationalize those promises they've made at JEDA. And that's what we're doing here as a diplomatic corps. So far, we've seen some real progress on getting food and medicine into hard-hit areas, something that really does affect women and children in particular. But we take those stories with us, and it really drives us to do what we want to do, particularly when, frankly, sometimes we get some very frustrating delays from the parties, or focuses on, things that don't seem to matter so much when you have millions of people facing starvation. So for us here, the goal was, how do we do that? We take the Adre experience. If we can move those trucks tomorrow, those are trucks going to Zamzam camp, where there are over 400,000 people facing starvation and famine right now. And getting those trucks there would be a lifesaver. So that's what we're focused on, is the life-saving business. And that's the spirit of these negotiations so far. And we've been pleased to see both the Army and the RSF respond with some positive steps.
Okay. My last question, Mr. Tom, what's your vision for peace in Sudan?
Well, the nice thing is I don't have to have my own vision, because the Sudanese people are so clear and have been since 2019. They want that peaceful, stable country with control of their own future through an inclusive, democratic Sudan, We hear that from the north, the south, the east, and the west. Sudan has been held back for a long time when it's a country of such tremendous diversity and talent, and it's just ready to be unleashed in terms of being such a powerful presence in the region and in the world. But that's not going to happen as long as these forces are fighting, as long as we're talking about famine instead of future. So I think the sooner we can get the Sudanese people control of their future, get back to that civilian democratic transition through with a ceasefire and with full humanitarian access, that vision will take care of itself. What I can say is I've just been deeply inspired by the Sudanese people, particularly young people who have so much at stake in that future, even under the most dire circumstances, continuing to speak up. And I think that's really what President Biden and Secretary Blinken heard, and why they said, we're not going to wait any longer. We're going to go forward with these negotiations. Even if the army doesn't want to be there, we're going to find a way to break down the barriers and get food and medicine to those 20 million people who are in food shortages, and work on implementing the Jeddah agreements. And that's what we're doing here. And the response from the Sudanese people has been incredible.
Thank you, Mr. Barragh Nazir, journalist from Sudan. Thank you, Mr. Tom Perlo, the U.S. Special Envoy role in the peace process.
Thank you so much.